You know that moment when you've just talked out, like, the most blistering, logically flawless message of your entire life?
Oh, yeah. We have all been there.
Right. I mean, maybe it's an email to a boss who keeps blocking your project, or a text to a relative who is just objectively wrong about something.
Yep.
Your heart is pounding.
Your finger is just hovering right over that send button.
Yes, exactly. And you have this overwhelming, intoxicating sense that if you just hit send, the sheer undeniable force of your logic is going to shatter their ignorance and, like, change everything.
It's a massive adrenaline rush. I
Yeah.
mean, you feel like you have successfully bottled lightning and you are just completely ready to throw it.
A lightning bolt of pure, unfiltered truth. But then there's that tiny, nagging voice in the back of your mind.
Oh, the voice of reason.
Right. The one asking, wait, is throwing this lightning bolt actually going to fix the problem?
Mhm.
Or, am I just setting the entire house on fire because I'm tired of the cold?
That tension right there, that is the ultimate communication tightrope.
Yep.
It's this extreme friction between our impulsive urge to speak a hard truth and the actual empathy required to ensure that truth can be heard by someone else.
And navigating that exact tightrope is our mission for you today. So welcome to the deep dive.
We're so glad you're here with us.
Okay, let's unpack this because we are exploring a really fascinating pairing of source materials curated for today, July 4th, 2026. And they were provided by Tarot, by Chase.
It's such an interesting combo.
It really is.
Yeah.
So on one hand, we have the astrological forecast for the day, which features some incredibly volatile planetary alignments.
Right.
And on the other, we have this brilliant sci-fi parable called The Whisper Drive, which basically takes those exact astrological concepts and just plays them out across a fully colonized solar system.
It is a remarkable combination. It takes these abstract cosmic concepts, planetary geometry, cosmic weather, and it grounds them in a deeply human story about the very real collateral damage of our words.
So let's start with that cosmic weather, because that really sets the stage for the conflict.
Right.
The astrological source highlights a major alignment today. It's Mars conjunct Uranus.
Right.
Now, I see these terms a lot, but mechanistically, what does a conjunction actually mean in this context?
Think of a conjunction as two planets occupying the exact same degree in the sky from our vantage point here on Earth.
Okay.
So their energies aren't just sitting next to each other, they are fused together into a single, highly concentrated beam.
Wow, okay.
Now, look at the ingredients here. Mars is the engine. It represents our drive, our ambition, our urge to take aggressive action.
And Uranus is the wild card.
Precisely. Uranus governs sudden breakthroughs, intellectual rebellion, shattering the status quo.
So when Mars conjuncts Uranus, you're essentially crossing two live wires.
Exactly. And the forecast notes that this creates a massive pressure cooker. It generates this fierce motivation to enact progressive change and just rebel against any form of restriction.
Which sounds great on paper until you hit a wall. And that brings us to the year 2089, and the protagonist of our sci-fi source, Dr. Mara Ellison.
Oh, Mara.
Yeah, just to paint the picture for you real quick. Humanity has completely colonized the solar system by this point. We have permanent glass-domed cities on Mars.
Yep.
There are, like, floating research stations bobbing on Titan's methane seas.
Sounds cozy.
Right? And the Lunar Republic is churning out helium-3, which is the rare isotope powering the fusion reactors for all these colonies. So basically, technology has completely conquered the physical problem of distance.
But technology hasn't conquered human nature.
Boy, did we ever find that out.
Right. I mean, we may have spread across the stars, but we took all of our bureaucratic anxiety right up there with us.
We really did. So Dr. Ellison has spent 8 years developing a technology called the Whisper Drive. And this isn't just a bigger rocket engine.
No.
The source says it folds probability.
Right.
How does that actually work in the context of the story?
Well, standard space travel in this universe relies on brute force mathematics. So calculating orbital mechanics and burning massive amounts of fuel to just push through gravity wells.
Standard rocket stuff.
Right. But the Whisper Drive operates on quantum probability. Instead of fighting gravity, the ship's computer calculates billions of quantum permutations of space-time to find hidden, temporary gravitational currents.
Okay, wait. So it's less like putting a massive V8 engine in your car to speed through red lights, and more like using a super advanced GPS to find the exact route where every single traffic light will just be green the moment you arrive.
That is a phenomenal way to visualize it.
Yeah.
Yes, it finds the path of least resistance that conventional computers literally can't see.
Wow.
And it reduces month-long journeys between planets to mere days. It works flawlessly in every single simulation.
But Mara can't get it built
No.
because she is trapped in this maze run by the Interplanetary Council. The text describes this council as a sprawling bureaucracy that, quote, measured caution in months and opportunity in years.
Yeah, that's heavy.
Every single time she submits her data, they demand more testing, more oversight, more international consultation.
Because the council is just terrified of the unknown. And what's fascinating here is how we see that Mars conjunct Uranus energy perfectly encapsulated in Mara.
Oh, right.
She is a visionary holding world-changing, progressive technology, and she is being totally suffocated by an unmoving wall of fear-based administration.
It's agonizing to read. I mean, the Interplanetary Council acts like that one corporate department that requires a 12-page risk assessment just to change the brand of coffee in the break room.
Exactly.
And when you put the extreme visionary urgency of Uranus against that kind of stagnation, I mean, something has to break.
And it does. The astrological source explicitly warns about the shadow side of this transit. Blurting, rage posting, and acting erratically when you feel restricted. Thoughts move fast and words come even faster.
Which leads us to the inciting incident.
Yeah.
So Mara is sitting in Armstrong City on the moon. She's staring at yet another rejection notice from the council, demanding another 2 years of simulated safety trials.
Ugh, brutal.
And she snaps. She bypasses every security protocol, logs directly into the council's public network, and types out a blistering open letter.
A letter that contains the things people only ever whisper behind closed doors.
Yeah. She writes, "You aren't protecting humanity. You're protecting your own fear. Progress does not disappear because paperwork says it isn't allowed. History belongs to the people willing to move before certainty arrives."
Wow.
And she hits send, blasting this to the entire solar system.
The ultimate manifestation of an impulsive, rebellious strike against authority.
Okay, I actually want to pause here for a second because I'm a little confused by how the story frames this. So
Okay.
What does this all mean? If Mars is about drive and Uranus is about shattering outdated structures for the sake of progress, isn't hitting send the most astrologically aligned thing she could possibly do?
You would think so, right?
Yeah. She has the data, the technology works, the council is just hoarding power. Sometimes you have to blow up the system to get the technology out there, right? Why is this framed as a mistake?
Well, it is a completely fair question.
Yeah.
And whistleblowing is often necessary. But the text distinguishes between dismantling a corrupt system to help people and brute forcing an ego trip just because you're tired of waiting. Uranus brings brilliant, lightning-fast innovation, but when that energy is totally ungrounded, it doesn't upgrade the system. It causes a systemic short circuit.
Okay, so it's the difference between carefully rewiring a house and just throwing a hand grenade into the fuse box.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
Look at the immediate fallout detailed in the source. Mara expects her logic to rally the people, but instead the contagion of impulsivity takes over.
Right.
Within 20 minutes, her message is translated into 140 languages. Within an hour, millions have shared it, but they aren't talking about the whisper drive.
Well.
They are using her rebellion as an excuse to unleash their own pent-up aggressions.
Oh, wow. I see what you mean. So
Yeah.
the technology completely takes a backseat to the anger.
Right. And the author introduces a character here, Commander Elias Novak, who is a veteran astronaut watching this from orbit. And he observes the chaos with a really vital insight. He says fast decisions can save lives, but fast opinions rarely do.
Oh, I love that distinction. That is so good. A fast decision is swerving your car to avoid a deer on the highway. You have to rely on instinct.
Yes.
A fast opinion is reacting to a highly complex geopolitical crisis on social media, 4 seconds after reading a headline, just because you feel the urge to be heard.
And that urge to be heard, without the discipline of context, it leads to structural decay. Mara's message essentially gives everyone permission to bypass their own internal filters.
It's a mess.
The text details a senator who suddenly resigns after broadcasting a string of insults instead of actual policy. An admiral accidentally leaks classified defense concerns on live television because he's caught up in the heat of the moment.
It's a cascading failure of diplomacy. Everyone stops trying to understand each other and just starts competing to be the most radically authentic person in the room.
Which leaves Mara entirely isolated. The council strips her security clearance, her lab is sealed. Even her supportive colleagues distance themselves because her innovation is now permanently associated with this uncontrollable, radioactive public chaos.
She won the argument in her own head, but she lost the ability to actually implement the work.
Exactly.
But thankfully, the story doesn't end with her in exile. Because while Mara unleashed the explosive side of our astrological forecast, she's about to be forced to use the second half of it.
Right, there's more.
The forecast also highlights a sextile to Neptune. So let's break that down. We know what a conjunction is. What is a sextile?
So a sextile occurs when planets are about 60 degrees apart. It is a highly cooperative, harmonious angle. Unlike a conjunction, which forces itself on you, a sextile is an opportunity. It requires you to actively engage with it to unlock its benefits. And Neptune is the planet of the vast oceans, intuition, dreams, and dissolving rigid boundaries.
The forecast notes, this energy asks us to trust the ideas that feel inspired rather than just logical, and to act on our imagination.
Which is incredibly difficult for a fiercely logical physicist like Mara.
Oh, totally. But she has no choice when a massive crisis hits the outer colonies. A heavily populated cargo convoy bound for Jupiter's moon, Europa, gets trapped in a completely unknown, chaotic gravitational instability.
It's terrifying.
It's like a hurricane made of pure gravity.
All the standard navigation systems completely fail. Every time the ship's computers calculate an escape route, the gravity well shifts and collapses the route.
The stakes are astronomical. The rescue estimates range from 4 months to never. And this is where conventional Mars-driven logic utterly fails. The most advanced artificial intelligence in the solar system cannot find a way out. Wait, why does the AI fail? I mean, if it can process billions of calculations a second, shouldn't it be able to map a storm?
Because AI relies on predictive models based on established physics.
Oh.
It looks at what happened a second ago to predict what will happen a second from now. But this anomaly is essentially rewriting its own physical laws every few moments. The math doesn't follow a logical progression.
Enter Mara. She is watching the emergency broadcasts from her tiny apartment, totally locked out of her own lab. She is watching the telemetry data of this storm, and she realizes something that makes absolutely zero mathematical sense. She realizes these chaotic gravitational currents aren't random. They resemble language.
The text describes it beautifully here. She stops looking at the data as physics equations and starts seeing syntax.
Wait, how does gravity have a syntax? What does that actually mean for flying a ship?
So think of how a sentence is structured. You have a subject, a verb, and punctuation. Mara realized that a specific type of violent gravitational, let's call it a noun, was always followed by a specific type of spatial compression, a verb.
Okay.
And interspersed between these violent forces were moments of absolute zero gravity stability, acting like commas and periods.
Okay, so she wasn't trying to predict the raw physics anymore. She was reading the grammar of the storm.
Exactly.
If she saw the noun and the verb, she knew a comma was coming. And a comma means a temporary safe zone where a ship can hold position.
Precisely. If you know the punctuation of the storm, you know exactly when to cut the engines and drift and when to brace for impact.
That is wild. It reminds me of those Magic Eye posters from the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
Remember those? If you walk up to a Magic Eye poster and use rigid logic like trying to mathematically calculate where the hidden 3D image is based on the distribution of colored pixels, you will just give yourself a migraine. You will never see it.
Because the logic creates a boundary.
Right. You literally have to relax your eyes. You have to soften your focus, abandon the rigid analysis, and just allow your brain to intuitively recognize the hidden pattern.
That is the ultimate Neptune sextile. Logic, which is Mars and Uranus, said these currents were a deadly random anomaly. Intuition Neptune allowed Mara to see the hidden grammar of the universe.
She stops trying to prove herself right with conventional math and simply follows the inspired pattern. She's sketching out the syntax of the storm in her notebooks.
And then she makes the most audacious move of the entire story. She calls up Commander Novak, the veteran astronaut who understands the danger of fast opinions, and she pitches him this completely insane syntax-based navigation algorithm.
She tells him, "You're going to think I've lost my mind." And Novak's response is iconic. He says, "I've flown through Saturn's rings. Define impossible."
It's such a brilliant moment. Novak knows that a bureaucratic committee will never, ever approve an algorithm based on gravitational grammar, so he bypasses the council. Without authorization, he uploads Mara's experimental algorithm directly to the trapped rescue fleet.
And the governments of Earth, Mars, and the Moon are absolutely losing their minds. They are threatening Novak with treason, screaming at him to abort the upload.
But the pilots in the storm ignore the bureaucracy. They receive Mara's data, and they do something revolutionary. They turn off their predictive AI models.
Oh, wow.
Instead of fighting the gravity or trying to outcalculate it, they use Mara's syntax to actively listen to the evolving patterns. They ride the commas and periods of the storm.
And 73 minutes later, every single crew member emerges from the anomaly alive. The impossible becomes operational reality.
It is a monumental triumph. The very people who condemned Mara weeks ago are suddenly hailing her as the savior of the Europa fleet.
I mean, you would completely expect this to be her victory lap, right?
Absolutely.
This is the moment in a movie where the protagonist kicks open the doors of the Interplanetary Council, drops her data on the table, and says, "I told you so." She has all the leverage.
But she doesn't do that. And this brings us to the most powerful thematic shift in the entire deep dive. Mara refuses the media circuit. Instead, she accepts a quiet invitation to address the council. And they are bracing for her to gloat. They are expecting a revenge tour.
Instead, she stands at the podium, looks at the administrators who ruined her career, and she apologizes.
This is the moment where the explosive Uranus energy of rebellion is finally matured and tempered by Neptune's profound empathy.
The quotes from her address are staggering. She tells the council, "I was right about the technology. I was wrong about the conversation."
She is acknowledging a really hard truth for highly intelligent people to swallow. Having the correct data is only half the assignment. If your delivery mechanism causes a systemic breakdown in communication, being right is functionally useless.
She goes on to say, progress doesn't happen because one person wins an argument. It happens because enough people become brave enough to ask better questions.
That line fundamentally dismantles how we normally view debates.
It really does.
We usually treat progress as a battlefield, where the smartest person defeats the ignorant opposition with facts. But Mara realizes that sustainable progress is inherently collaborative. It requires a mutual willingness to step into the unknown together. You can't drag people into the future while insulting them.
And then she delivers the line that really hit me. She says, "I confused urgency with certainty. Some truths deserve to be spoken immediately. Others deserve enough patience that people can actually hear them."
It's a profound self-reflection. She recognizes that her initial explosive open letter wasn't actually about saving humanity. It was about relieving her own personal frustration.
Yeah.
The truth she had to share, the reality of the whisper drive, required patience. It required genuine empathy for administrators who were legitimately terrified of the catastrophic change her technology represented.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because this is so applicable to our daily lives. Think about being a manager trying to implement a new, highly efficient workflow at the office, but your team is resisting.
Right.
Or navigating a heated, deeply personal debate at a family dinner. We all experience those moments where we feel so incredibly certain that we are right, and we feel this burning urgency to force the other side to admit it. But the text delivers this devastating takeaway regarding her initial rebellion. It says, intelligence without empathy was merely efficient conflict.
Efficient conflict. What a staggering phrase. Because without empathy, your intelligence isn't a tool for building. It just becomes a highly optimized weapon for making other people feel stupid or defensive.
Yeah.
And the mechanistic reality of human psychology is that the moment a person feels defensive, their brain literally stops processing new information. They stop listening, and they start preparing their counterattack.
So how does the solar system actually change after this apology?
Yeah.
Because she didn't just invent a new engine. She clearly shifted a massive cultural paradigm.
Well, the aftermath shows real structural transformation. The Interplanetary Council doesn't just applaud her and go back to business as usual. They realize their own fear was the bottleneck. So they decentralize. Approval systems that took years are reduced to weeks. Independent scientific teams are granted the authority to test revolutionary ideas in sandbox environments without political interference.
So the bureaucracy of fear was dismantled, not by her initial rebellious attack, but by an empathetic compromise that allowed the council to let go of their anxiety.
Yes. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, on a cultural level, communication training becomes mandatory for every commander, engineer, and elected official in the system.
Wow.
Society collectively realizes that the ability to speak to one another without triggering defensive posturing is just as vital to their survival as the mathematics required to navigate space.
That's incredible.
The Whisper Drive eventually enters mass production, But the historians centuries later agree that it didn't spark the true expansion era because it conquered distance.
It sparked the expansion era because it changed how humanity explored uncertainty.
Hmm.
It's such a beautiful reframing. The greatest frontier wasn't the millions of miles between the planets. The true frontier was the space between what people were afraid to say and what they finally found the courage to hear.
Which brings us full circle to our astrological forecast for July 4th, 2026.
Right?
The alignment of Mars, Uranus, and Neptune provides you with massive potential for visionary action and breakthroughs today. But it requires the discipline to manage the friction. It asks you to temper your urge for impulsive rebellion with the grace of imaginative empathy.
So as you go through your day today, and you inevitably find yourself in a situation where you are itching to unleash a hard truth, maybe you're staring at that drafted email, or you're about to interject in a tense meeting. Remember Maura Ellison?
Yeah.
Remember that urgency is not the same thing as certainty. Your truth might be completely valid, logically flawless, and urgently needed. But if you want it to actually take root and create progress, you have to package it with enough patience that the other person can actually receive it.
And I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. We talked about how during the crisis at Europa, Mara realized that the deadly gravitational currents were actually behaving like a written language.
Right.
They weren't a random malicious force. They were a complex structure of syntax and punctuation rewriting themselves.
The universe acting as a grammar lesson.
Yes. So what if our own chaotic human disagreements are just a language we haven't learned to read yet?
Mm.
What if the friction you're experiencing in your life right now with a difficult coworker, a stubborn partner, or even just the overwhelming noise of the broader culture isn't a permanent, insurmountable wall? What if it is just a very complex punctuation mark in a sentence that is still being written?
Wow. That fundamentally changes how you look at every argument you will ever have.
Sure.
If we stop trying to aggressively predict and control the friction and start actually listening to the pattern of the people around us, who knows what kind of impossible things we could navigate. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. Keep asking better questions, have the courage to hear the answers, and we'll see you next time.